Hello and welcome to the Monday Night Raw review on the WrestleTalk Podcast, because in the main event of last night's show, we had a clash of epic proportions. It was the last monster standing. It was King Kong versus Godzilla. It was Megatron versus Optimus Prime.
I thought that was a curious call by Wade.
They're not monsters.
No,
they're Autobots.
Well, no, one of them is an Autobot.
Come
on now, you cannot come into this house on this show and make such an epic mistake. We never make mistakes like that on this podcast.
And I was making light of what Wade had said, and then I'm worse.
Yeah,
I'm worse. Decepticon is what I meant to say. Is that okay?
Well, yes, one of them is, and the other one is the other. Yes,
and together they are both talking cars. This is Luke Cohen. If you haven't, DAD. If you haven't already, please press the thumbs up button, give us a subscribe, leave a comment down below with what you thought of this episode, and send in your chattatores, chat Gables.
I like chat Gables. Also, I believe it is chattator.
To WrestleTalk.com/support. And most importantly, please go over to Patreon.com/WrestleTalk. That's the best place to support us. You can support us there from $2 a month. And we've got loads of exclusive content, like an entire ongoing series right now of Monday Night War, The Last Chance of Luke versus Pete. 4 episodes in now, so you can watch all 4 right away. And as of yesterday, episode 2 in our epic TNA 2006 review of Kurt Angle versus Samoa Joe.
Yes, our second episode in that series. There are 3 more episodes to go as we look at TNA's greatest rivalry in Samoa Joe versus Kurt Angle, and we had quite the fun time with Turning Point 2006, and it's remarkably less around Angle and Joe and more around the Voodoo Kin Mafia.
Yeah, the Road Dogg Jesse James and Mr. Ass are both the worst and best things on that show.
And I would say they are both the best and worst thing on the show. And the best thing on the show is Kevin Nash.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, all of that is going to come to an end in episode 3. When we get to Final Resolution 07. I don't think there's any more Voodoo Kin Mafia stuff after that. And it is, I think, the end of Nash with the X Division.
It's really funny. It's really interesting. And you help support us make all this stuff that we're doing. So please go over to patreon.com/WrestleTalk and check that out. But for now, let's talk about the main event of Monday Night Raw. It was Bronson Reed versus Braun Strowman, about, 6 weeks in the making.
Yeah.
I don't even know if this was originally the plan. I feel like Braun Strowman was just meant to be someone Reed would take out after the whole Seth Rollins 6 Tsunamis angle. But then Reed got COVID that time, which meant they had to delay the match.
I still think we would have ended up at this point here. I think this was always the plan. I think they would have just done another angle where the match doesn't happen.
Well, whatever the original plan was, it has played out, I would say, flawlessly.
It's been great.
It's Brian Alvarez described it as the best mid-card feud of the year. And when he said it, I thought, I can't think of a better one.
No, it's my favourite thing on Raw at the moment that isn't the New Day.
And yeah, so it's just 2 guys, Reed and Strowman. They're both just destroying everything in their wake as they attack each other. But this was the last monster standing match, the one to settle all the destruction from the last month and a half. And it had this awesome video package that we saw last week where they're framed as like these 2 kaijus. Bronson Reed emerging from the sea and Braun Strowman knocking over tower blocks to throw those first punches at each other like the Kong versus Godzilla trailer.
And I guess that's why I didn't look at these 2 and think of Optimus Prime and Megatron, because I don't look at Optimus Prime and Megatron and imagine kaiju battles. They're big robots, don't get me wrong. But I think it's because the Bay movies don't exist in my head because I don't think they're particularly good. That's not what Transformers is to me.
But this was the actual match, and they set a high expectation level because they've been teasing quite a few things, like Braun Strowman doing a dive off the top rope, like a superplex spot. And we've also seen crazy things like the tsunami onto the car, going through walls.
Oh, brilliant.
So it's like, okay, what's the actual match going to be like? And it was just... sorry. Massive spot after massive spot.
That's all it was just spots. This was chokeslam through a table, ad break. We then have Reed fall through some chairs on the outside.
Who set those chairs up?
Well, I'd imagine Reed did during the ad break. We then had a Death Valley driver off some production crates through a table. And then it's the spear through the barricade, basically. It's just 4 big spots before we get to the finish.
It's a spear through the timekeeper's area. And we're like, okay, I love that spot always. But I've seen it quite a few times before. What I haven't then seen him follow up is Strowman standing up and Reed tackling him through the next barricade.
Yeah, into the fans.
Into the fans.
They hurt innocent people. That's why the referee then did a terrible job with the rest of this match.
Maybe he knew someone there?
There
were fans there. We're saying they're plants because...
Yeah, of course.
Otherwise... it wouldn't have felt like so much of a storyline.
So, security runs down, Adam Pearce runs down, and the referee is hugely distracted by all of this. Reed then rolls Strowman into the ring, hits the tsunami, and has the match won. Strowman is down for 10, but the referee, Reed is shouting at him, why aren't you counting? And the referee's like, yeah, in a minute. It's like, what is the referee doing here?
I think the 20 security guys have got it handled.
They have got this covered, Chad. I don't know what you can add to this scenario. So Reed then hits another tsunami and has the match won a second time, but the referee still isn't doing anything. So then Reed goes out, he kind of argues with Adam Pearce. Thankfully, Jason Jordan was there to make the save. And then Strowman does what he teased last week, the dive off the top rope to the floor, onto everyone. Credit to Strowman. Considering the man has got 0 working knees, he was awesome in this match.
Yeah, there's speculation that he injured his leg early as well, because he wasn't really able to walk that well. And I know he's a bit clunky when he walks these days anyway, but it looked worse than normal. Yeah, he still did all of the big spots.
Yeah, including a dive off the top rope, man.
He might not have done the choo-choo train.
No.
Because of the leg thing. So maybe there was a missed spot, but not faulting him for that. But yeah, the dive off the top top turnbuckle. I really appreciate the fan crush detail because that gave a kayfabe reason for the security to run out.
Yeah.
If this was the Vince McMahon days, he would just send them out there because it's needed for the next spot. So the security allowed that to happen, and that's who Strowman jumped onto.
Yeah. I think I disagree. I think there would have still been... They'd have found a storyline reason for there to be that many security down there. They had storyline reasons for why, the cell was broken during, in 1997 and NSL and, Armageddon 2000 and things like that.
But 2015 through to 2022, he would not have cared to book a detail.
I think there would have been. But that, maybe I'm giving that man too much credit, which he does not deserve.
Yeah, look at the defender over here.
I've watched one Mr. McMahon episode, and I'm like, do you know what? Maybe he was a business genius. He took wrestling out of those smoky bingo halls. That's what the documentary told me. I've only seen one episode of it. I cannot believe that line is in the documentary and is not challenged at all. That he took wrestling out of the smoky bingo halls. That is preposterous that is in a Netflix documentary. But anyway, that's by the by. The final spot of the match is the T superplex that we didn't get last week, and I think the whole ring was supposed to collapse, but just the turnbuckles fell over.
Cha-chung. The opposite corners. Cha-chung.
All four of them came down. I think the whole ring was supposed to go down because Joe Tessitore says the whole ring's collapsed, but it didn't. It was very much still standing.
It was down a bit.
Yeah, but it was not the ring collapse, which is what they were doing. This is not Big Show and Lesnar or Big Show and Henry, which is what they were aiming for here.
It didn't have the big, crazy spectacle of the previous ones.
No, exactly.
But I feel like this was earned more.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was awesome. Yeah, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it was bad. I'm saying I think the whole ring was supposed to explode.
Yeah.
I just don't think it did.
Yeah.
And then
in fire.
Yeah, and then Reed looks like he's about to win, but Seth Rollins makes his return. He runs down, and he stomps Reed's head into the steel steps. Strowman stands up. Strowman wins. And I loudly shouted, boo, in the office.
You didn't like that?
Didn't like the finish.
Explain.
I think it's a combination of two things. One, I think this whole feud has been for Strowman to put Reed over. I think Reed gets way more out of being put over in this match than Strowman does in winning a match where he won via interference. And B, I was so sick of interference spots on this show because every single match had distraction and interference that I was just looking for a clean victory. Though, well, as soon as someone else, I was like, oh man, another interference spot, which is annoying because I knew it was coming. Because Reed said earlier in the night, Seth Rollins isn't coming back. And I was like, so he's totally showing up in the main event then?
I don't know what's wrong with me. I'm a smart guy. I can, I'll watch convoluted movie plots and be able to figure out what's going to happen. There's something about my brain right now where WWE will say, this guy's not in the building. And I'll go, okay.
It's the honeymoon period.
And it's like, this. I think, yeah, you're right. Bronson Reed earlier on. Yeah, Seth. I don't care.
It's the first time he's mentioned him since he took him out.
If he comes back, I'll take years off his life, not off his career. And I'm like, okay, I guess Seth is going to have a feud there when he comes
Probably
back.
a Royal Rumble return for Seth Rollins then.
And then Finn Balor, a heel, rings up Dominic Mysterio and says, I've got travel issues. I'm like, okay, so Finn's not coming. Both of them on this. Yeah, I don't know why I'm dumb around this at the moment.
Yeah.
But the Seth thing caught me by absolute surprise. I thought it was an awesome finish. I totally get what you mean about like Reed should be the one who was getting put over here. I feel exactly the same way. I feel like this whole project has been designed to get Bronson over more.
Yeah. From
the very first Seth Rollins angle. But now Braun Strowman's done such a good job in this. Takes two to tango. It's almost a shame for him to just lose and Bronson Reed goes up. What I think they've managed to do here really, really well is Bronson had the visible pin. He just gets beaten by Seth Rollins, which is a comeuppance on his own actions from what he did to Seth 6 weeks or whatever before. So Braun Strowman gets the win, and Bronson arguably looks better than when he went going in and moves up the card because now he has a proper feud with Seth. Now, if Seth beats Reed, I will be a bit upset, I think. But if Reed beats Seth, I think this is a perfect way to get everyone more over.
I agree in principle. I don't think we need to be giving Braun Strowman this win. Like, I don't think Braun goes on to anything much more after this. Like, what I want to see Braun do is more monster battles. But we kind of are out of monsters now.
What if he ends up in the Wyatt Six?
I don't think I've got much interest in him being in the Wyatt Six. And also, like, him losing would actually give him more of a reason to go into the Wyatt Six as opposed to him winning here. Like, it's the visual pin. We also had a visual pin in the Lyra match. So I was just like, I was just so done with interference and distraction spots that I just was looking for a clean finish. So another one on top of that probably made me dislike it more than it necessitated or than it deserved. But I didn't love it. I'm not saying it's a bad finish. I'm just saying I didn't love the finish.
Well, we've not had any specific chats about the last Monster Standing.
Which I'm surprised by, particularly with the Rollins return as well.
Yeah, the Rollins return's big, I would say. It feels like he's been gone a lot longer than what he has been.
Yeah.
But let's go through some chats right now. WrestleTalk.com/support. Send them in. We'll read over every one over $5. Lord Blake OB says, I was at Raw last night and there were a few things I noticed. Number 1, Jey Uso is the most over person in the company. Number 2, sitting next to kids during a Rey Mysterio match gives me a headache. And number 3, Whackin' Wild is incredibly handsome. Like, really handsome.
There you go. Got to go live to see how handsome Whacking Wild is.
Kevin says, so Hunter, do you always carry a giant Hell in a Cell with you, or did you just happen to find it in the arena? I think that's okay.
Yeah, it's the go home angle.
Yeah.
They said it to show you, like, here is, like, you know, you can see it here on TV, but sign up for Peacock and you can see them fight inside it.
Also disappointed seeing Punk in full white and not dropping buckets of blood.
That's the setup.
Yeah. Seriously, good Raw, but not much more heat for Bad Blood.
I mean, the big, like, 3 talking points coming out of this show are Rollins returning, which does nothing for Bad Blood, Gunther and Sammy, which does nothing for Bad Blood, and Xavier Woods and the New Day, which does nothing for Bad Blood.
Yeah, I feel like all the... this was just a good week of Raw. Not so much a good go-home for Bad Blood, although I did enjoy the McIntyre Punk stuff.
I think I have come to the realization now, and I probably should have come to this a long time ago, that there's no such thing as a go-home show anymore. Because the pay-per-views are another episode of TV, and because the episodes of TV themselves are promoted like pay-per-views, because they've got the world title matches on next week's show. This coming Friday SmackDown has got the three-way ladder match for the tag titles. This week was the last Monster Standing. They are building pay-per-view level matches on TV that really don't ever do go-home shows, because every show is kind of a go-home show for the next week. So if you sort of see what I mean.
Which I mean, I kind of said this back when AEW first launched, and I feel like they did do that for a period.
Yeah.
Where
they fell out of it.
Every week felt like we were paying off some level of undercard through to upper mid-card 4-week storyline.
Yeah, especially when they were only doing 4 pay-per-views a year.
Cameron P1 says, I have conflicting thoughts about the ending to The Last Monster Standing. As a huge Reed fan, I wish he won, but I hope he can keep his momentum going with Seth. Miz is totally going after Jay once he beats Truth, isn't he? Next week looks great, though.
No, Miz is going into stuff with Karrion Kross. He is not going for the IC title.
100%.
Unless he's going into a feud with Braun Strowman next, because they are setting that up on TV. A match I don't particularly have any interest in seeing.
But Braun's got all that momentum. You said you wanted him to fight monsters.
Oh, well, yeah. Well, what bigger monster
come in all shape and sizes,
yeah,
as Cross said.
What bigger of a monster than Karrion Kross in your ear, making you a monster?
Kazoo says, absolutely crushed about Ilya. He barely established himself, and now he's gone for almost a full year. I really hope he can find his footing upon his return. He is too talented to get lost in the shuffle. Have a healthy recovery, Mad Dragon.
Well, he's got a tailor-made feud for him to come back to. Just going for that. I kind of was surprised
they didn't set up.
Well, I'm surprised Gunther did not set that up because they showed it in the video beforehand. But yeah, he can come back now and just go straight into a feud with Gunther.
Yeah. Laramie Ish says, love this opening of Raw. The J video package was excellent, and when he was struggling with his promo, he had to do an audible, and it felt like he was a real person, and that did wonders for him in my eyes. Main event also ruled. 4 out of 5, ready for 2-hour Raw.
Oh yeah, 2-hour Raw next week.
I mean, let's get on to the full play-by-play, because we'll start with that J-So promo, because I don't know if I enjoyed it as much. And that's a tease before we get into that, because go over to patreon.com/WrestleTalk right now to watch episode 2 of our TNA series, recapping the historic rivalry of Samoa Joe and Kurt Angle.
It's so much fun looking at this. And if you want a big tease for it, if you think my opinions are bad now, wait till you hear 2006 20-year-old Luke Owen on a message board opinions.
He's found them.
I've gone back. I've got all of my old forum posts from around this period of time and what I thought of TNA and WWE in this period of time. I read them out on the air, and they are as bad as I feared.
That's patreon.com/WrestleTalk. There's loads of other stuff up there too, like an exclusive podcast about the history of receipts Dave and I did on Sunday, and Worst Match Ever, an exclusive episode of that.
Yeah, where we watch The Miz versus John Cena, and because it's on Patreon, and we don't have to put it up on YouTube and get copyright flagged, we have the match on screen, so you can watch us watch John Cena versus The Miz in the main event of WrestleMania, which is inarguably among the worst WrestleMania main events of all time. Yeah. I think it is actually worse than Undertaker versus Sid.
But Sid himself.
And that is why I think Undertaker and Sid is better. Because Cena and Miz just metaphorically S themselves in that match.
Hey, Miz got a concussion.
Yeah, and the match was dreadful up until that point, and then he gets a concussion, and it gets worse.
Okay, so this episode of Monday Night Raw from Evansville, Canada. I've said that in my edited review, and I originally wrote out, I'm joking. I know it's Indiana, but I made this mistake last week, and I thought, no, I'm taking out the explanation. So I don't know how many people have got annoyed that I said Evansville, Canada, but I'm going to do it every week now.
Yeah, just say every show's in Canada.
But it felt a bit like Canada with Jey Uso and the pink Bret Hart shades, and with with all the children backstage when he's going to do his entrance. One of his kids is with him too. It was really nice stuff. Good video package too, recapping his IC title win. Enters through the crowd, enormously over. He gets in the ring, ready to cut his victory promo. And I think he forgot everything.
Yeah, I think emotions got the better of Mr. Russo in this opening segment here.
Sometimes you just go blank. And
he went blank for a while.
Yeah, it was a bit awkward. But as we just heard from that chat Gable, they liked that. Yeah. They thought it showed him being genuine.
It also helps he has got a one-word chant that he could just fall back on. Like if you're struggling,
yeet.
You could just say yeet, and the crowd will say yeet back to you.
He would. Most of the promo was this. I love you guys. Yeet.
Line.
I love you all. I love you all. Yeet. And it was, yeah.
Mum, yeah, cool. I spoke to my mum.
I think he had an important plot point to hit about Roman as well, because he did talk about Roman. He said Roman never had his back, but yeah, he spoke to his mum. She said, go out there, show them who you are, and then he said yeet again. But interestingly, Bron Breakker comes out, totally together, and he says he's not here to spoil the party. He's here because he's got respect for that belt, and let me be the first person to shake your hand. And I thought, okay, wrestling. This is gonna get a tug. It's gonna set up a rematch.
You'd love a tug, wouldn't you?
He didn't tug him off at all.
No. Actually, it was a genuine tug.
He just shaked him.
Yeah.
No tug.
Nope.
So yeah, Braun. It's like, I am a babyface now.
This was the official babyface turn for him, yeah. Particularly because they set him up later to be Gunther's next challenger, which is really important when you're setting up Gunther versus Sami Zayn for next week.
So cynical. Judgment Day, they're chilling by the Lucha Lowrider.
Sorry, if I may, actually, this was the most important thing for me about this whole segment. Because Jey Uso, I thought it was actually very sweet and very honest and very like. I think people really warmed to genuine emotion, and this was genuine emotion. I think that's why people are responding to this in the way they are, and I thought it was quite lovely. And I thought Braun was really great in this segment as well. But for me, the most important thing about this is they've redesigned the Intercontinental Championship.
Yeah.
And all they did was add in 3 bits of blue, and it looks infinitely better than it did before. God, it's only now. I didn't like that IC title belt design anyway. But now they've added just 3. I was like, oh, that looks so much better. It's so nicer.
It's the globe, and they've just put C's in.
Yeah. Oh, it's lovely now. Like, it genuinely looks like it actually looks like a title belt for a change.
Yeah, like our little bits of blue up here in the championship.
Well, it's a bit of a tribute to the Oval IC title.
Judgment Day chilling by the Lucha Lowrider. That's when Finn rings Dom and says that he's not going to be here.
When he was on the phone saying, I'm not going to be here, I was like, so you're going to be here later then?
I didn't. I was like, oh, I guess he's held up somewhere.
2 weeks of him not being on the show before the pay-per-view.
Honestly, I thought maybe he's injured. I was annoyed. Rey Mysterio then took on Xavier Woods. Not much of a match, and the match that was there was weirdly botchy. However, doesn't matter. This was such a good finish to the story they're trying to tell. Woods and Mysterio had a bit of tension over the last couple of weeks. That's why this match was happening. Woods is out there without Kofi. He's alone. And the finish is Woods dodges a 619. He botches whatever that next move was meant to be. But Rey's mask slipped off as Xavier did that. Woods looks at this situation, which he didn't really create, takes advantage of it, rolls him up. 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, and he rolls out the ring, and you can literally see the conflicting emotions on his face of, yeah, great, I won, and I beat former world champion Rey Mysterio. But I just took advantage of the situation. I wasn't cheating.
Yeah.
I just took advantage of it. That's what a champion would do, is they would take advantage of that situation.
So you've got sportsmanship, where in that sort of scenario, you would step back, say, I'm sorry. You know, like if someone's in the ropes, you step back, that's yours. And then you've got gamesmanship, where you take advantage of those situations. It's not typically the moral babyface thing to do.
That's what DDP was tied off with The Undertaker. I'm tired of your gamesmanship, Undertaker.
And Tessa Tor said I thought he did a really good job getting us over on commentary, just getting over his disgust. Not disgust, but like, what's he doing? What's Woods doing?
And I thought Wade also was very good at getting over, because this plays into the segment that comes afterwards, which is you can be all down in the dumps about your run, but the second you get one win, it can be all happiness and rainbows. And he got his win. Woods got a big win on TV, under dubious circumstances, though they may be, and he was happiness and unicorns and rainbows. And then in the following segment, where he is all full of happiness, he then gets a bit of news that makes him feel very glum, which is immediately turned around, and he's all back to happiness and unicorns again.
Yeah, so Kofi approaches him backstage afterwards, asks if he did that on purpose.
I didn't mean to do that. I didn't mean to. Actually, I was expecting you to come up and say congratulations to me.
Yeah.
Not talk about how I won.
Yeah, I thought you'd be happy for me getting a win, not like criticizing how I did it. And Kofi is just trying to, he loves Woods. He's trying to be there for him. So he buries whatever he's feeling about him. And he starts to go on about how, well, Jey Uso, he's a fighting champion. And he asked me if I wanted to be his first challenger for the Intercontinental title next week.
A former multi-time IC champion in Kofi Kingston.
And Woods said, Woods just gets glum again.
It's instantly down.
I can't be happy for you. I'm trying to win titles.
And he was just like, of course it was you. He didn't offer it to me. Of course he went to you to offer that title shot. So, yeah, I guess you'll just get another title match next week.
But Kofi says, well, no, let me finish. I said, I think you should have that title shot. A beautiful gesture from the character of Kofi. Woods is over the moon again. He's like, all that spoiled stuff sort of drops to one side. And this is just such a good slow burn for both guys' characters. I'm so intrigued to see where this goes.
I love it so much. I'm looking for the chat to help me out here. Was it Karrion Kross that was stood in the background watching them?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
It was Karrion Kross, because I couldn't quite make out who it was. Just generic man was standing there, so I assumed it was Karrion Kross.
Either him or Giovanni Vinci.
But yeah, so I think it's interesting that Kross is there, because this is all Kross is doing. He's the one who set all of this up. They may not have won any of the matches that they had, but who's the real victor?
Who?
That's Karrion Kross.
It's a New Day thing.
Yeah. Speaking of groups that can't win,
well, they won here.
It's their first win.
It's
the first win since they've officially become the Pure Fusion Collective.
Oh, good grief.
That one of them has won a match.
Lyra Valkyria took on Zoey Stark. Valkyria had Vega, Zelina Vega, and Natalya in recent weeks as backup, but they're not here now. So I'll know the numbers game. It's exactly what happens. Shayna distracts the referee. Sonya hits Lyra with a knee behind the referee's back. Z360 for the Stark win. And then they're beating her down afterwards. Kaden Carter and Katana Chance run down for the save. They fight off the Pure Fusion Collective.
Where were you, party girls? The whole story of this match was that she had no backup.
Mm-hmm.
Where were you at? You could have come down and helped this. You could have come down and stopped this interference much earlier. Also within this, Lyra did get a visual pin on Zoey Stark, because we don't want the Pure Fusion Collective to look good.
Yeah, so even though the Pure Fusion Collective managed to get this elusive first victory, they didn't even get an opportunity to just stand in the ring and gloat and cut a heel promo that might make them eventually look credible.
No, instead they celebrated this like they had just won the world title.
And Carter and Chance come down and lay them out.
Yeah. Even
though there's two of them and there were three of Pure Fusion Collective.
Oh, they're not a good group.
It's terrible.
I just want to add as well, not only is this the first win for someone in the Pure Fusion Collective, it is the first win since July.
Katana Chance and Kaden Carter. Did I say those the right way round? Yes, I did. Are backstage with Lyra, and they start shouting when the Unholy Union walk in, who say, well, we're going to go for the tag team titles. And Chance and Carter are like, no, we're going to go for the tag team titles.
Yeah, but the Unholy Union had that match last week where they lost to Damage Control for a shot at the tag team titles.
Decisively.
Yeah, so it's hard to then do a backstage segment where you're like, well, I think we should have a shot at the tag team titles.
I admired Katana showing a lot of emotion. I thought she came off like Scrappy Doo. I think everyone's performances in this were below average to bad. But blame them a little bit. I think it's more the material. There's just nothing for them to work with here. Your character is tag team titles. Your storyline is tag team titles. There's nothing here. And you look at stuff that the New Day are doing, or Sammy and Gunther, arguably, there's so much there, whether you like it or not. This has nothing.
It is also the only women's thing on the show this week. There's only one women's match, so, do better. But it is also, I feel like a broken record here. This women's title is just tied up in a faction. And Liv Morgan has had that title now for months and months and months. And has had, one title defense? And it was against Zelina Vega. So it's not even like it was a credible title defense. It might as well have been against Zoey Stark. I think this women's tag scene is, almost applaud them for trying, but it's not doing much of anything. And
it's a crutch.
Yeah, and I think the women's stuff is slightly better over on SmackDown, but I think as a whole, this company should do much better by its women's division.
CM Punk and Drew McIntyre were next. The Hell in a Cell structure lowers. You've got Adam Pearce and a line of security between them. They say you are not allowed to get physical. And what I love about this is Punk is all in white, Drew's all in black. They don't come out there doing the traditional high-energy go-home promo. It is very much two guys who have made a series of decisions months ago. They probably thought they would have been done with each other by now, but they're still here. They're tired of each other. They don't want to go to hell, but they realize they have to.
I loved this segment. Segment was absolutely awesome from various different angles. Punk all in white, Drew all in black. I know writers who use subtext and they're all cowards. So I think them just letting you know this is the good guy and this is the bad guy I appreciate that. But CM Punk genuinely looking afraid to walk inside the cell. And it was like a little bit of almost like nerves, like him touching the steel cage and stuff. I cannot put over enough how good of a job WWE have done in rehabilitating the Hell in a Cell gimmick to make it feel like as important as it did in 97 through to 2000s. Like when it genuinely felt like the most must-see gimmick attraction that company had at that time. It's so great. And I thought Punk was awesome in this segment. But what I love about it was the promos that they cut. Because really, neither of them have got anything new to say about this. And that's kind of what Drew's point was in his promo. It was like, look, I've been saying this for 10 months. You're all still cheering him, so I guess you're all just idiots. But that's okay. I'm going to end this Saturday. This is it. This is the end. And Punk's promo was, I literally have nothing to say to you. I wouldn't say anything to garbage anyway. But this is where we're currently at. I don't want to go home. I can't go home. Because I cannot let my wife see the man that I have become, the man that you have made me become, the man that has reached a point where I have to have a Hell in a Cell match against you to end this. I think the last 3 or so weeks have been fine for this feud. I'm kind of I'm ready for this feud to be over and done with now. But Punk's promo we had 2 weeks ago I thought was superb. And I thought this segment here was absolutely awesome. It got over the feud, it got over the characters, and it got over the stipulation.
There's some great lines in this as well, where Drew said that Punk taught him to hate again, and on Saturday, the hate will die with Punk. It's like Drew needs to destroy Punk so he can move. He just wants to move on with his life now, but he can't do it.
Yeah.
And Punk said he's known as the voice of the voiceless, but right now I'm voiceless. I've got nothing more to say. And then speaks for 3 minutes.
Yeah, I suppose you could level that at it.
And being glib.
Yeah, and very humorous about it as well.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. I particularly enjoyed the line, you did pray for this, and it has happened.
But you won't be praying to God or the devil on Saturday. You'll be praying to CM Punk. Which again, it's got those reverbs of Punk's Boxing with God famous promo. The Punk specifically said, "I've lived in a hotel for the last 4 weeks because I don't want AJ to see me this way." Great stuff.
Yeah.
Cannot wait now.
For a feud that was quite maligned last month because it was over a bracelet and people were kind of making fun of it a little bit, the turnaround has been exceptional.
Well, they've had like 2 goofy gimmicks. Seth Rollins didn't need to be that special guest referee.
Well, have you seen SummerSlam 1997?
The 4 corners match, what's it called?
The Mario Party gimmick.
Yeah, that was more of a game show than a match. This is okay. We never had the serious first match.
No, this is.
Braun Strowman's backstage. The interview, I think it's Jackie, asks him if he's trepidatious about tonight. Braun says, "I don't know what that means," which I thought was really funny.
It's got 2 meanings there. Like, I've never been trepidatious in my entire life. Or,
yes,
I've never actually heard that word before. Please do explain it to me.
Miz interrupts the interview, but then R-Truth makes his return, interrupting both of them. Awesome Truth's back, and he's got them a tag match against AOP.
Comedy.
It's Authors of Pain.
Yeah.
Sammy did an interview backstage saying he's been disrespected by Gunther. He won't stop challenging him. Then we got Judgment Day versus LWO. This was after Dragon Lee beat Carlito the previous week. Blah, blah, blah. Finn Balor was there all along. He pushed Whackin' Wild off the top rope. Liv distracted the referee when that happened. Although it's a 6-man, doesn't matter. And Judgment Day got the win.
Yeah. The match was fine.
I enjoyed some of the lucha spots, and Whackin' Wild did a coast-to-coast on all 3 members in the corner piled up.
Yeah, I thought it was a fine little match.
So afterwards...
More interference.
Finn cuts a in-ring promo. Finterference.
Yeah, I suppose this is actually Finterference.
Finn cut an in-ring promo afterwards.
Sorry, and Livterference.
You done?
Yes.
Carlito.
Well, he was in the match, so he can't interfere because they're in the match. But Liv was not in the match, and neither was Finn, so they can interfere and distract the referee. It's important that you do that because you can't have clean finishes on Raw.
Finn cuts an in-ring promo afterwards. He says Priest can't rip out of his heart because he doesn't have one. And it was Priest who needed Judgment Day, not the other way around. I don't know about that, based on the last 2 months. Liv starts to cut a promo, but Rhea interrupts. She wheels out the shark cage. Dom's starting to act really scared. It's funny. And while Rhea is distracting them with this, Priest is behind the Judgment Day. He attacks them all. Rhea brawls with Dom. Rhea brawls with Liv. Shoves Dom in the shark cage. But the 3-on-1 numbers game overcomes Priest. And Finn stands tall with 3 coups de grace.
Yeah, so Liv initially ran away when Rhea Ripley was throwing Dominic Mysterio into the cage because she was scared of Rhea Ripley. And then when her back was turned, ran out and attacked her some more, or attacked her for the first time. And then, the numbers game got the better of Damian Priest so that Finn could brawl with him in the ring and get the advantage. I am ready for this to be done.
Yeah, I'm over this.
Massively.
I think I was over this after Bash in Berlin.
Yeah, me too.
When Priest and Rhea beat Liv and Dom
quite easily.
Yeah, I was like, okay, yeah, that's the final match. It's like the Blood and Guts feuds in AEW. No, that's the final match. I've got no interest seeing the spin-off matches now.
Also, I do like 5 days out from the pay-per-view, you've introduced the gimmick that Dominic Mysterio is afraid of small spaces.
Yeah.
It's just like...
Well, he was sent to prison.
Yes, but he was not scared of small spaces. No, if anything, prison made him harder. Prison actually improved him. That was
Rhea Ripley made him harder.
That was the story, is that prison made him a tougher guy.
Well, that's what he claims.
I've seen nothing but evidence on screen that he's a tougher guy now.
I think that's okay. I think it's a cage. He's been jailed before. Yeah. He puts bravado about that, but actually he never wants to go back there again.
No. Well, he didn't get to prison in the first place. I think it's also part of the joke. When the Judgment Day walked out for the 6-man tag, I was like, this is the problem with your group, is that usually within a group you have one whipping boy. You've got 3 of them are whipping boys, and one of them is one half of the tag champions.
Well, I suppose Priest and Ripley, who weren't the whipping people, they've now left. So it is it is mostly whipping boys, isn't it?
Well, then it's
that's
time
the way they like it.
It's time to level up some of those people so they're not just three losers coming out and then winning, no less. But yeah, I'm very much ready for this to be over.
Sheamus cuts a promo about the man he calls Butch, challenged him to a good old-fashioned Donnybrook match to settle this once and for all.
Shout out to Tempest, he called this on 3 count. Absolutely called this.
Donnybrook match is like a Irish bar. Is that?
Yeah,
is that what it looks like?
It's a street fight.
Yeah. WWE expressed their best wishes to Pete Rose, who sadly passed away earlier that day. Io Sky, there was another women's thing on this show. There was a whole 90-second video
about the tag titles.
Io Sky and Kairi Sane challenged Bianca and Jade to a tag title match, and they did that. And I thought, didn't they? I thought they did that last week.
Well, they won a number 1 contendership last week, so it's very weird to then challenge them to a tag title match.
We are exercising our earned victory.
Yeah. On the Pete Rose thing, I know literally nothing about that man other than he feuded with Kane at 3 WrestleManias.
Yes.
That is all my Pete Rose knowledge.
That was how I was, and I just assumed he was, Americans are going to get very angry. I thought he was like a TV host.
I thought he was a joke.
Yeah.
Because his whole thing was he'd get beaten up by Kane 3 WrestleManias in a row. I thought he was a joke. And he was, like a game show host. Like having a Drew Carey out there.
Yes, yeah, totally. Or a Bob Costas.
Yeah.
Have you listened to the Wrestling Observer today?
I have not.
So Pete Rose, apparently one of the greatest baseball players of all time.
Mm.
So there's that. He was disqualified from the Baseball Hall of Fame because he was found to have been placing bets on other team, when he was a coach.
Right. Okay.
Manager or whatever. So very, very bad. Frowned upon there. So actually, WWE's Celebrity Wing Hall of Fame was actually a joke to induct Pete Rose as the first one because Pete Rose couldn't go into the baseball
actual Hall of Fame. A Hall of Fame that matters.
And that's where the Celebrity Wing comes from.
No way. That's fascinating.
It is, isn't it?
That is fascinating.
Chad Gable then took on Kofi Kingston, talking of fascinating. This, if you take the last Monster Standing match, this was by far the best match of the night.
Yeah,
I don't really think there was anything. That's the one thing I missed from this episode, was some decent in-ring wrestling.
Yeah, I thought this was good in-ring wrestling. I really enjoyed this. I'll tell you what I did love was the finish to this. Because this was interference and distraction that actually furthered a story as opposed to just being we don't want to just beat people clean. This was interference that, and this is why I harp on about how much interference there is. In the same way that AEW is really bad for this as well, just doing interference to protect someone in loss. This is interference that actually means something. And it would mean more if every match didn't have interference and distraction.
So Wood's out there in Kofi's corner. It's Kofi versus Chad Gable because Chad cost the New Day their victory last week against American Made. Really good wrestling, I thought. Chad Gable was awesome. Kofi's no slouch. And the American Made interference gets too much, so Kofi runs up the steel steps and takes them all out. Xavier Woods joins in. He's taking out the Creeds and stuff. And then he's like, well, I'm going to trip Chad to kind of even the odds because these guys have been interfering and costing Kofi various moments. But in tripping Chad, it holds Chad up, meaning Kofi's Trouble in Paradise in the middle of the ring misses. And that's enough time for Chad to hit the Chaos Theory and win.
Chad even had enough time to realize what had happened in the moment because Kofi whips him into the ropes to hit Trouble in Paradise. Woods trips him. So Chad turns around and is like, what are you doing? Then turns around and sees that Kofi's now missed his move. And he's like, great. Taking advantage of the situation, much like Woods did in that opening contest to hit Chaos Theory. I thought it was a fantastic finish for this storyline. It's so great.
And Woods is selling. He looked absolutely distraught. There is he's got the benefit of the doubt, which is really smart. But I think, I don't know, do you think as a character he's doing this intentionally? I don't think so.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm reaching my water there. No, not at all. But that's the brilliance of this. He didn't mean to rip off Rey Mysterio's mask and take advantage of it. He took advantage of the moment, but it's not like he went in there with the game plan of doing that. He did not mean to screw Kofi over in this moment. I thought this was great. In the same way that Kofi didn't mean to tag Odyssey Jones over Woods. It's just that he was the closest hand to him.
After that, we have a Bronson Reed interview with Jackie. That's when he mentions Seth coming back. Yep. Didn't see that. Wyatt 6 promo, usual spooky bits. Nothing more to report there.
Well, you say there's nothing to... Alexa Bliss was in this video.
Sorry, what?
Right at the end of this...
That wasn't her face.
Yes, it was.
No, it wasn't.
I've actually got an image of it.
I feel like I would have heard about that. I've not seen that covered by anyone.
Oh, I tried to get the photo off of
off
Discovery
Plus
screenshots. Yeah. Let me bring it. I'll load it up on the old YouTube.
Well,
I am pretty confident that was exactly Alexa Bliss.
I'll start talking about the Gunther promo. So Gunther makes his way out to the ring. There's a clip of a live show from Saturday where Gunther faced Ilya Dragunov, and Ilya unfortunately has potentially torn his ACL, putting him out for 6 to 9 months, which is just rubbish.
Yeah, it is.
Tempest was so distraught about this morning. And yeah, I feel it. I feel him. So Gunther comes out. Yeah, I don't think that's an open and shut case.
That is so open and shut. That's so Alexa Bliss. And she had the she was in like Sister Abigail like gear.
Yeah, I saw it as Sister Abigail. I don't think that's her mouth.
That's of course. What do you mean that's not her mouth? That's so Alexa Bliss.
She's got a... For
reference, is
well, that's end of Star Wars New Hope. I don't think that's her Filtrum.
That is so Alexa Bliss. Come on, man.
That looks a bit more like Alexa Bliss.
It's because it is.
Can we get a poll? Is a poll already running?
No, that is the what do we think of the show?
Oh. Well, don't get a poll. Just say it in the comments. So Gunther comes out. There's the recap that only the commentators do about the Ilya injury.
Are anyone saying it's Nikki?
That's what I thought. It looked more like Nikki.
I don't think that looks like Nikki. That looks a lot like Alexa Bliss, but I don't think it looks like Nikki Cross.
So the one thing I would have hoped for this, seeing that Gunther was in the match against Ilya,
well, now I'm looking at it,
is Gunther should have said that he has taken out Ilya. Ha ha ha. He won't be around for ages. That's all he needs. One little line at the start, so when Ilya comes back, boom, it's there as a storyline feud.
Yeah. But he didn't do that.
He didn't do that.
No.
Instead, Sami Zayn comes out, says all the usual stuff. I beat you. You're scared of me. Gunther says all the usual stuff as well.
Well, he did have a new wrinkle to this, which I really liked, which is that... So here's what happened at WrestleMania. My family were also at WrestleMania. I just don't parade them around like you do, Sami Zayn. But it meant that the most embarrassing loss of my career to you was seen by my father in front of him. And I had to look my father in the eyes after that match. And he told me, you lost to a bum.
Imagine that.
Because
your
family are used to you being a failure, but my family aren't like that. My family, I'm the golden goose. Like my family actually expect things from me, unlike yours. So me losing to you was incredibly embarrassing.
And then Sami said, well, if you don't fight me, your dad will think you're a coward.
Well,
kind of.
I think Sami's point here was really silly because he said, yeah, you lost to me. And then what did you do? Like, win King of the Ring and win the World Heavyweight Championship.
Beat everyone else.
Yeah, he went on a winning streak and won the World Heavyweight title. It's quite hard to... What did you do after that, you coward? He won a tournament and then won the world title. You're arguing with him because he's the world champion. What do you mean, what did you do?
So they have a back and forth. It was pretty good. Gunther lays him out with a powerbomb. So yeah, a few things coming out of that. The idea that Gunther versus Sami isn't on the pay-per-view. It's on Raw next week. Personally, I like that.
Yeah, I don't mind it.
I don't believe that Sami's going to beat Gunther. I think a Raw TV main event at this stage is a good placement for this.
I love what Triple H is doing with this. I've got my things on the 5-match card. Perhaps I would prefer 6-7 matches, and I think that's my That's my comfort zone. I think that is better than the 5. It would make it longer because you have to give 5 more ad placements in there, but I actually prefer to have 7 matches. However, what I think is really, really strong about the company at the moment is that they are having pay-per-view quality matches on the Raws and SmackDowns in between the pay-per-views. So every show feels like it is must-see.
So there's that, which we're behind. There's the laying out of Sami and setting up Braun as the next challenger, which comes after that, actually. We'll get onto it shortly. Let's just talk about it now. Later on, Gunther and Kaiser are backstage. They're going to talk about Sami, but Braun Breaker walks in the shot and just looks at the world title and says, "See you soon." And doesn't Braun say something like, "Oh, he's a brave boy"? Yeah.
He basically was like, "I just want to see what the title looked like."
Yeah. So that's, obviously we're going to get babyface Braun versus Gunther, which I said last week it's a bit early for me, but hey, I don't mind it.
Don't mind it.
Exactly what I would do. But it kind of massively undermines Sami's threat.
Yeah, absolutely.
The only other thing is, I'm all about psychological depth and 3-dimensional characters and slow burn stories. I don't care about Gunther having any depth.
I think Gunther can have depth, but I think his surface level thing should always be, I respect the ring, respect this world title, and will defend it against anybody. But you can do that with that level of doubt within him against Sami Zayn. That's why I think you can have your cake and eat it too. You didn't just do one or the other.
I don't hate the father issues stuff.
I like that a lot.
But I don't think it's necessary. I think Gunther works better as an archetype, like a Judge Dredd.
You're always trying to make things Judge Dredd.
I love 2018. Or a Goldberg,
Yeah.
Some characters don't need depth. I think Gunther is a good archetype rather than having backstory.
I agree, because I feel like we've done quite a lot of feuds this year where it has been like, I'm going to bring up your dads. Mm-hmm. Like, we literally had this in the last Gunther feud with Randy Orton. A lot of that was about promos about his dads and stuff. Maybe Triple H has got dad issues.
Maybe father-in-law issues.
Yeah, maybe. I can't imagine why.
Then after that, we got the Awesome Truth versus AOP. R-Truth's in there, makes the hot tag to Miz. Miz immediately turns on R-Truth. He's turned heel. Wow.
Cool.
That was pretty much both mine and also the audience's reaction. I've never seen any audience react like, "Oh, okay, cool."
Yeah.
For a heel turn like that.
Yeah. I mean, perhaps if it wasn't the Awesome Truth, it would have been a bigger moment.
Well, the Awesome Truth have had periods of hotness.
Yeah, back in April when they won the tag titles. And that openness diminished the night after WrestleMania.
Then the AOP celebrated, and it had, Scarlett, and it had Cross to an extent, and it had Paul Ellering. And I thought, this team have 3 managers.
Oh, yeah. Also, you're talking about groups that never win anything. Final Testament, I can remember what they were called there. Wish.com Judgment Day. They begging for wins. And they got a win here over the Awesome Truth, no less.
Yeah, so I'm not... It wasn't a big impactful moment, but I actually think what they've done with Miz and Karrion Kross is quite interesting. So curious to see where it goes. And then we got the
curious is a strong word.
Breaker segment and the main event. Overall, I gave this 73%.
Yeah, this was a standard episode of Raw. I think its highest highs were the New Day stuff and that Hell in a Cell promo, which I thought were really, really good.
Please go over to patreon.com/WrestleTalk to support us there, because for the $30 pledge, you'll get your name read out on this very show with a wrestling nickname. We haven't got any today because it's the first of the month, but keep on getting those in, and we'll do that throughout the month, along with loads of exclusive content. Patreon.com/WrestleTalk. Kenneth Jones says, not the biggest Jay fan, and I completely agree with Luke that he's been flanderized, but he's massively over with kids and casual fans like my dad. I realise Jay is to kids and casuals what Will Ospreay is to us. I say we just let them enjoy.
That's what I've been saying all along, is that like Jey Uso does very little for me, but cannot deny how over he is. You see, I think it was Punk said in the week that he's never seen a crowd more unified in seeing someone win a title than he did last week with Jey Uso. I'm like, you were at Money in the Bank 2011.
Oh, it's divisive, though, that crowd. There were a couple of Cena fans in the front row.
Divisive,
There were a couple of Cena fans in the front row. They're
Sure.
dressed up as it.
Yeah, or you could argue One Night Stand.
Yeah. CM Grundy says, really good show. Sad it was Miz who turned, but Karrion got his man. The New Day story is bubbling nicely, but the best storyline had the best go-home promo I think I've ever seen. Punk and Drew were just amazing. The intensity was off the charts.
I'm not sure I'd say it was the best go-home segment I've ever seen, but it was a very good segment.
Shellhard. Hi guys, love the monster match and the Seth return was awesome. Drew and Punk promos were good and Woods' character work is amazing. However, the Raw women's mid-card is boring and can't wait for all this Judgment Day stuff to be finished. Overall good Raw.
I feel like I'm looking at chats from last year where I was like, I can't wait for this Judgment Day thing to be finished. For a group that is on TV all the time, never seen more apathy towards a long-running faction.
The Bruiserweight Boris, what is your opinion of the world title match not being on pay-per-view? I just feel a bit bummed out that a match of that caliber, which has a great story between Zayn and Gunther, isn't getting paid off on pay-per-view.
It's a different era, at least in WWE. It's different in AEW because they are still on a pay-per-view model, but in WWE it doesn't really matter.
I think there's an argument to be had that the main event of a Raw is right now is a more prestige position than the middle two matches of a pay-per-view card.
Maybe.
Which is where this would go. Anonymous. Hi lads, I never listen live as I've been in Australia for 15 years, but here on Holes, so got the chance. Love the channel, love your work. I think loading Raws up with PLE quality matches is awesome. Really hope the Cell match has the appropriate violence.
Me too.
I think it will, surely. Geek of Arabia. I like Zoey and Shayna as a duo. They weren't doing much, but adding Sonya Deville somehow sank all the heat, and now they have a stupid name in PFC. Power Factor Correction is a dumb name.
I think what doesn't help PFC, because I actually, okay, here's my controversial take for the month. I don't think it's a terrible name. I don't. I do not think it is the worst faction name. I think it's functional and it's broadly fine. It's different. Don't mind it. What hurts them is they lose all their matches, then have promos like, we run this division, yeah, and everyone's scared of us. And everyone acts like they're scared of them. And I'm like, why? They lose all the time.
Do they act like they're scared of them?
Lyra in that backstage segment was like, oh no, I am at a numbers disadvantage. I'm like, yeah, against Zoey Stark, you'll probably be okay.
Akiko Sanada says, as great as Raw has been, SmackDown, in my opinion, has been better with its women's division. I agree. Raw only has Ripley, Morgan, and Io. Cure Insomnia Collective isn't working. Lyra has lost all momentum since Queen of the Ring, and everyone else has lost in tag title vortex.
You want to call them Cure Insomnia because that sounds like they're a cure for insomnia.
Yeah, that's a good thing.
Oh no, I suppose that means you're falling asleep watching them. A cure for, and having insomnia means you'd be awake all the time. And a cure for that would be...
Okay, well,
maybe that's good.
Okay, well done.
Actually, it's pretty good.
Ket says, I'm annoyed how they treat Dominic as a joke. Considering how good he is, he's more than just a punching bag. He should be booked like... He should be booked like Kurt Angle. He can do comedy, but he's a serious threat in the ring. Right now, I don't see Dom as a threat.
Yeah, you're not supposed to, though.
Sorry, I thought this started off as a joke.
I thought it did as well. When I read, he should be booked like Kurt Angle.
I guess I disagree, is all I can say. I think he could definitely be portrayed a bit more of a threat in the ring. Maybe it's his sort of cheating evil brain that gives him the one-up, but he's not a technical wrestling machine like Kurt Angle.
No. What hurts is that he is in a group where Carlito is also dumb guy who gets beaten, and JD McDonough is also dumb guy that gets beaten.
Kevin, my issue with the Judgment Day / Terror Twins feud is that I don't get why it takes so long for Priest to face Finn. They should have had the mixed tag on Raw and both singles matches at Berlin, because this feud has been much of the same these past weeks.
I actually agree with Kevin on that one. I think there is an argument to be made that Finn and Priest should have headlined a TV show 2 weeks ago, and Sami and Gunther should have been on the pay-per-view.
Yeah, put them that way around. The Black Prince says, having now seen the Vincent Kennedy McMahon documentary, I've come to the conclusion that it was supposed to be a glow-up piece on Vince and WWE before they joined Netflix. Then the accusations came out, and they rightfully threw Vince under the bus to help WWE save face.
Well, yeah, the point of it was, when it was a joint venture, back when it was announced in 2020, it was supposed to be a puff piece, more or less, about the WWE business and how great it is as a business mind. You can see that in the interviews.
I don't know if that's true,
but
because the director, Chris Smith, I don't think he'd do that kind of project.
But they would have had the interviews with Meltzer and the like, where they would have been like, no, it was 78,000. And yeah, Andre had been slammed a bunch of times. And yeah, Andre had been beaten before. So they would have had that. But from the WWE side of things, it would have been interviews with Vince and Pritchard and Triple H and Stephanie and Shane and Linda, talking about how great, and good business decisions they made. And here is the story and the trials and tribulations that they went through.
I guess I've got more... I'm not as cynical about the thing. I think the team behind it ended up doing a really good job. And the project was announced way before WWE was going to Netflix. So it was never sort of I think it's turned out like that, but from the start it wasn't let's do this ahead of the Netflix deal.
And there's a really interesting theory from WrestleNomics that although the reports were that WWE had no involvement in it after the accusations and basically sort of dropped out of it, like Pritchard's interview in like January was like pretty much the last bit of investment WWE actually had in the documentary. I think that their theory that WWE did have some involvement in it holds some water, given like the point they make is that no one currently in the company is made to look bad, and the subtitles always say World Wrestling Entertainment, even when people are saying World Wrestling Federation. And there is the argument of they still gave them all the footage.
The Bruiserweight Boris says, do you guys think that a Cody Rhodes heel turn is inevitable? And if so, when and how should they do it? Loving all your content, guys. Just became an official pledge hammer. Thank you so much, Boris. Patreon.com/WrestleTalk. I don't know if it's inevitable.
No, it's not. All WWE fans are now where AEW fans were in 2021, being like, but he's turning heel, right? Like he's going to turn heel, but no, it's just he's always going to be a babyface. He sees himself as John Cena, and he'll never turn heel.
Kevin, Ollie and Luke starting their Patreon extra with, we tricked you. You're now stuck with us reviewing TNA. That's how we start our most recent episode. So you're going to trick me with a good time? That's my kind of mark. Cameron P1, second chat here to mention, I'm going to the TNA tapings on Thursday, saw that they are putting all proceeds to Hurricane Helen relief and had to go. Even got a bunch of co-workers to come. Can't wait. Yeah. Oh, that's good. And it's a really nice gesture from TNA there as well. Real Double J, what do I need to pay for cutscenes to do a deep dive on Megalopolis?
I would love that so
Or at
much.
least a review from fabled film studies degree holder Ollie Davis. I ask because it's the most polarizing post-film pub chat I've had since Freddy got fingered. P.S. I want more kaiju matches.
Well, that is what Francis Ford Coppola was looking for when he did this 40-year in the making opus, was it to be compared to Freddy Got Fingered.
5 million opening weekend.
Delicious. Nom, 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 nom. 40 years in the making.
I don't know how many screens it was on. Maybe it was on 2 screens, and that's an amazing number.
The film cost like 150 million to make. Out of, and I think this is right, all of Coppola's own pockets. Because no studio was going to finance this film. Because he's been trying to get it financed for, 40 years.
He had to sell his vineyard.
Not the vineyard.
No.
Oh, I love that it's done so poorly. That is so delicious. This is the new Jupiter Ascending.
Oh, at least that had studio backing. This is just a madman with a vineyard.
Yeah. Have you seen the posters for it?
Yeah.
A fable.
Charles Berg, 14th Memberg. I saw Braun talking with Gunther as adding additional doubt to Gunther's character. I am high, though, so it's unlikely that was the case. Thanks for sharing, Charles. And finally, for now, Julio Mendoza. Hey, y'all, can't wait for this Woods heel turn. Man, every women's tag team match for Raw is so depressing. I wish I cared about anyone other than the champs, but who do y'all think takes the titles from Jay? I think maybe Gable or Dom. Why not? Lol, y'all.
Yeah, I don't know who the person is to beat. He's only just won the belt, so it's one of the situations I don't think the right person is there just yet.
I think Bronson Reed.
I wouldn't mind that. I wouldn't hate it.
Has a feud with Seth come December, January.
I think I'm going to give Jay a longer run with this belt. Your whole thing is, and I said this on last week's show, your whole thing is he took him 14 years to win a world title. He should probably hold on to that title for a little bit than 2 months.
Megalopolis played in 2,000 theaters, so 5 million take. Not great. Well, thank you very much. Let's see what the poll says for the overall. Remember, I said 73. How in line with the audience am I?
81% thumbs up.
Okay.
And 15% thumbs in the middle. People liked it more than you did.
I feel like people enjoyed this episode more than I did, yeah. But 2 hours next week. Come on! Yes! Been waiting 10 years for this.
You and I were talking about this back in this 2017, the T-shirt days being like, man, this show would be so much better at 2 hours. Next week. I did actually think it took nearly 15 minutes for Jey Uso to finally start cutting a promo. I was like, this won't happen next week. They haven't got 3 hours to kill.
But for now, please go over to patreon.com/WrestleTalk to get a 3.5 hour episode of us talking about TNA right now. But from now, I've been Ollie Davis. This has been Luke Owen, DAD. Jam that jam.
Jam that jam.